Messerschmitt 262 1/48 scale Hobby Boss. Any good? Find out right here on Gary's Stuff. Hi there, I'm Gary, welcome to my channel. Welcome back if you've been here before. Indeed, today I am looking inside this, the kit of the Me262 A2A in 1/48 scale from Hobby Boss. As usual, I'll be having a brief look at the history of the Me262. I'll have a look at what other 1/48 scale kits of the aircraft are available, and of course, I'll be showing you what you get inside your box for your money. All these bits come as chapters. You can hop backwards and forwards as your heart desires. Now, if you're thinking about buying one of these kits, then this is probably the video for you. If you've already got one and want to know how to put it together, that will be in the companion build video, which will be released soon. How will you know that's been released? Well, you'll subscribe to the channel and you'll hit that bell and you'll be notified of all my future videos as they are released. And of course, if you like anything you see on my channel, please do remember, imperial thumbs up on the like button below. And if you want to offer a bit more concrete support, you can do that through super thanks, by becoming a channel member, or by going through any of my online partner programs. Enough of all of that, let's have a look then briefly at the history of the Me262. The Messerschmitt Me262 was the first jet-powered aircraft to enter operational service. The first squadron use was in April 1944, and the type saw service for the last year of the Second World War. The initial design work for the twin-engined jet-powered fighter started before the war in April 1939. The first flight of an airframe with a temporary piston engine took place on 18th of April 1941. The first jet prototypes retained the tailwheel configuration, but from the fifth prototype onwards, the Me262 had a tricycle arrangement with a nose wheel. Problems with early jet engines continued to plague the project, with poor performance and very limited life. Even in service, the life rarely exceeded 25 flying hours. However, when it did take to the air, the Me262 proved itself an excellent flying machine. British test pilot Eric Winkle-Brown declared it the best fighter of the war, its only drawback being its very high speed, giving limited time for attacks on bombers to be made, either with its four 30mm cannon or with rockets mounted under the wings. As a fighter, its main vulnerability was its sluggishness during takeoff or landing. A further hindrance to the project was Hitler's insistence that the Me262 be used as a fast bomber instead of a fighter. One prototype version, the A2A-U2, even had a glazed nose for a bomb aimer. By the end of the war, numerous versions of the Me262 had been created. These included night fighter aircraft with nose radar and a second seat for the radar operator, and a bomber-destroyer version with a nose-mounted 50mm gun. A handful of two-seat trainers were also built. Lack of strategic materials, fuel and the poor decision making meant that the Me262 didn't have the impact on the war it could have had. Around 1,400 aircraft were actually built, including in underground factories, but no more than 100 or so would ever be serviceable at any given time. Even so, German pilots claimed a total of 542 Allied aircraft destroyed in the air, for the loss of around 100 Me262s shot down. In tests after the war, the Me262 showed itself superior both to the British Gloucester Meteor and the American P-80 Shooting Star. Today, 9 Me262s may be seen on display in museums across the world. A further 5 replica aircraft were built, powered by modern General Electric CJ610 engines, some of which fly at air shows. There are so many ME262 kits past and present, I'm just going to look at those made in 1/48 scale. This kit that I'm making was first released in 2015. It comes from a tooling, first made in 2010, and is the 9th boxing of the Hobby Boss kit to be released. Previous and subsequent versions have included Night Fighter, Bomber, and training versions. The first 1/48 scale kit of the ME262 was made by Lindbergh all the way back in 1957. This was reissued in 1975, then on several occasions up to 2005. Its last outing was in 2014 as a dual kit with the Junkers Ju-87. In 1989, Japanese company TriMaster released their 1/48 scale kit of the ME262, following up with kits of 3 derivatives of the aircraft. Now these were mixed media kits with photo etch, vinyl tyres, white metal castings, and so on. When TriMaster went out of business in 1991, Dragon acquired the moulds and re-released the kits in a simpler form, starting in 1992, with more releases slowly accumulating new parts through the 1990s. Perhaps the high point of development was the 2004 release of a Mistel version of one ME262 atop the other. The Dragon kit was reboxed and sold by Hasegawa from 1993. They made some interesting scheme changes, such as this Black Knight of Berlin aircraft on sale in the late 1990s. The Dragon kit was also marketed by Revell in 1997, by Italeri in 2001, and again, but with added photo etch, in 2009, and finally by Cyber Hobby in 2010. Monogram released their first 1/48 scale kit of the ME262 in 1978, and the kit was being released as late as 1995. Now this kit replaced the Dragon kit in the Hasegawa lineup in 2000 and in the Revell catalogue in 2006. This Revell version was last released in 2013. In 2002, Tamiya released their new tooling of the ME262, initially sold with the Kettenkrafteig tug. This kit was last released in 2008 as part of a Defense of the Reich set. In the 2010s, Antares models had this really interesting but mainly resin kit of the V1 prototype of the ME262. This was an aircraft used for studying the basic flight characteristics of the design and had a piston engine in the nose because of project delays on the jets. And in 2021, Amusing Hobby released this kit of the ME262 HD3 version with swept wings and engines buried in the wing roots, a version that never actually took to the air. There's a pleasant enough piece of box art on the front. Yeah, just showing a ME262 in flight with the bombs, which is how I'm going to be building it. Inside is the usual array of things. There's some colour sheets. There's the instructions. There's some bags of parts, quite a lot of bags of parts, almost all the parts are bagged, one per frame, which is, I don't know if that's necessarily terribly good for the environment, but it was probably done a little while ago. And another bag containing the decal sheet. We'll have a look at all these parts individually. The instruction sheet is fairly straightforward. There's a reprise of the box art in monochrome. There's some general advice, an indication of what all the different symbols mean during the instructions, how to do decals as well. Inside we have a parts map on here. We'll go through all the frames in a minute. And then the instructions. Instructions are fairly simple little, orthographic view. Colour call-outs everywhere, jolly goods. It looks a fairly straightforward kit to make, actually. Not that many instructions, to be perfectly honest. Yeah, looks very straightforward. Frames A1 and A2 are the fuselage halves. Very simple, very straightforward. Lots of detail on the inside, but we'll have another look at that a little bit later. But for the while at least, frame A1 and frame A2. Alphabetically at least, the next frame is F. Confusingly, I'm going to guess B, C, D, E will be used for something else, maybe another version of the aircraft. Anyway, frame F are the main wings, upper and lower part, single span lower surface, and the horizontal stabilizers or tailplanes. Frame G is largely the cockpit and other internal structures, undercarriage and the wheels. There's a rudder there, undercarriage doors, things like that, and also some of the supports for the interior parts around the main spar. Frame H contains the engine pods and the inlet and exhaust bodies. In frame K we have the nose area, the gun bay and undercarriage bay, and associated bits of electronics and electrics. Frame M for Mike contains the covers for the gun bay and also the base of the gun bay. This base of the gun bay here, that's optionally in plastic. It also comes as a metal piece. Frame N for November contains the 30mm cannon that go in the nose and bits like the nose gear door. In frame P we have more bits of nose assembly, including the outer nose panels and the nose cone, among other things. And the final frame of grey plastic in this kit is frame WB, which, as you can see, contains the bombs. There are two transparent frames supplied, GP1 here on the left and GP3. These contain essentially the parts for the canopy. And finally, as I've mentioned earlier on frame M, frame part M1, you get a plastic version and a metal version. A plastic version, I guess you can use if you want to add your own nose weights or if you're showing the aircraft in flight. Whereas if you're having it on the ground, you don't want to do nose weights, you can use this metal part, and it also acts as a nose weight, which is an excellent idea. And then there's the decal sheet for the, I think 2 or 3 versions that are here. I think 2 versions that are included here. All very nice, very, very nicely printed indeed. They look nice and sharp. They look in as good registration as you might expect for actually not that many colours, to be honest. The infamous tail markings are there if you wish to use them. And what a nice touch on one of the side crosses here. There's a piece here that's been moved. That's because there's an access panel. I was actually looking at that thinking, I have the access panel open, but there's this huge great cross that goes across it. Well, they've thought of that, and they actually separate it for you as well. Absolutely excellent. As I say, they look certainly very sharp, but have a closer look to just check how sharp they are. Yeah, the text looks okay. I suspect on something like Cartograph they might be just a tiny bit crisper, but they're looking okay. I'm not entirely sure what these ones are all about, but hey, I'll find out, no doubt. But you know, they're not bad at all. They're okay. They're absolutely okay. These are my tweezers. You can see these are actually really, really very small. Do you know what? They're good enough for me, that's for sure. They're good enough for me, and good enough for 1/48th, I reckon. Looking at the plastic itself, it's actually very clean. there doesn't seem to be much in the way of flash anywhere that I can notice. Maybe the tiniest bit here and there, but really nothing to write home about. This is the inspection hatch I was telling you about. I want to have open, so that's nice. Might as well, because I'll be putting a lot of stuff inside. The structures are good in here. All seem to be nicely reproduced. The ejector pins are actually not bad. They're hardly noticeable some of the time. I mean, if you put them in a strong light, you can sort of pick them out. But to be honest, most of these will be, if I need to sand them out, I can do. And those are actually moulded parts, because there's these circular access holes. So you look at those and think, oh my god, those are quite large, but they're not. That's an ejector pin. But you know what? Really very, very impressed by the plastic altogether. It feels solid, feels very, very solid. It feels like hard plastic. The one thing I would say is that they do have this underfill thing quite a lot. So you've got the edge here, the feed comes in here and just sort of ducks down a little bit. So it feeds from underneath. Feeds this part from underneath, feels from underneath rather. So here, although you can get a nice sharp line on that boundary, on the edge here, still get that sharp line, but it does impinge instead onto the bonding surface. So whilst you can chop it off very nicely, you do then have to get rid of what's left here. But at least that's on the bonding surface, and it's not going to lead you to cut out or snip out, sort of take out a pit. Quite often you see that in leading edge parts on aircraft, and it's really annoying. For example, up here on the tail, again, it's an undercut feed line. So it, I don't know if you can see very well. So it fills the part from underneath this edge, so it's actually easy just to take this edge off completely, and then just sand down the little bit of plastic that's left. It's very nice. That is very clean. But you know what? The lines of this aircraft are very, very fine. I've been meaning to do one for such a long time, and it's so nice to see such a nice kit of it. Then when we get to the really small parts, you can see they're very cleanly moulded. These ejector pins are going to be a bit of a pain to get off cleanly, I suspect, but these parts look like they'll be fine. Again, there's hardly any flash at all on any of this. It all looks very, very clean. Let's have a look at the front of the instrument panel. Just raised edges. Now this kind of makes you think, should I use the decal or should I paint it and then brush it? I'll have a look once I've brushed it. I'll have a look at the decals and see whether I'm going to dry brush this and just tap in some mythical sort of impressions of parts rather than actual dials that I know what they are. All these parts are lovely. A lot of these go into the body, which is why I wanted the that inspection hatch open on the fuselage. Wheels, they look fine, nicely modelled. The tyres are, yeah, they're going to be difficult to get right when they go together, but you know what, the tyres get worn down, so I'm not too worried if I don't get that cross hatching done. The side should be okay. Yeah, everything's looking jolly nice. And finally we have the colour callouts here. This is Scheme A, or Scheme 1, which is an aircraft of 2 kg51. The colour callouts down here are, there's mainly RLM colours obviously. or others. There's Mr. Hobby, Vallejo, Moddy Master, Tamiya and Humbrol, the closest equivalents. Interesting that things like Tyre Black, there's no Vallejo, but I use Tyre Black all the time from Vallejo. Pretty sure Tamiya do one as well, in which case I'm pretty sure Model Master do as well. I'm pretty sure Humbrol don't. RLM 82, can't believe no one else does it apart from Mr. Hobby and Vallejo. RLM 02 for example as well. Hey ho. Anyway, so that's the colour callouts there for Scheme 1, and then on the other side is Scheme 2, which is an aircraft of 1 kg-51. Primarily this is RLM 76 light blue with the light green spray marks on it, light green and dark green I guess, spray marks. Okay, so there we go. I'll probably be doing this one. There we go then, the Messerschmitt Me262 from Hobby Boss. I think it looks an interesting kit. I love the way they give you an optional metal piece for the nose to act as a nose weight. I think that's inspired. Very sensible indeed. I'll be probably making it as the kit version here on the cover version of the camouflage cover scheme, including the bombs. So looking forward to doing that. If you're looking forward to seeing how I get on with it, best way for you to do that is to subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, and you'll be notified when my videos arrive on this or any of my other kits, indeed anything else I publish. If you like anything you see on my channel, please do remember, give it the imperial thumbs up on the button below. Every like helps. Thank you so much for watching. I hope to see you again very, very soon. Take care now and goodbye.